Come on in, you guys. We got a brand new episode of Jimmy Rants in store for you here today. JimmyRants.com is the website, as always. If you want to engage live in the content, you really need to go follow me over on Instagram Live. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, you can join in on the fun. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here today as well. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours here on Instagram. But after that, it does disappear, and we have two different places that you can access the past episodes. Of course, JimmyRants.com, we house all the past episodes of the show there. Lots of interesting information about the show there as well. And for those of you that like to watch this on YouTube, a lot of people watch this on YouTube, so hello to all my YouTubers out there. So go over to YouTube, type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. So hello, you guys. We're back here with another week of Jimmy Rants episodes. I really have a good time doing this show, sharing all kinds of information, all kinds of voices out there, trying to give people lots of perspective on a wide variety of subjects. Well, lately, obviously, what a lot of us are interested in is this whole COVID-19 thing, and I've been very, very careful and selective about what I share here on this show. And sometimes I'm presenting information that, goes a little bit against the mainstream of what's being talked about and all the talking points that are out there about it, just to get you to think and just to give you an alternative perspective. So before I read what I'm going to read here today, I want to share something disturbing that I got just today over on Facebook, actually. It was one of my Facebook pages where I posted, you'll recall that Jimmy Rants that I did last week, all about the group of medical doctors that are calling for an end to the lockdown, and here's the reasons why. And so I post these little 1-minute clips with little headlines and stuff on there, and the JimmyRants.com at the bottom. And I posted one yesterday all about that specific one. And man, you should have seen the ugliness, you guys. Like, I can't believe you're wearing a tinfoil hat and you're a conspiracy theorist and you're spreading misinformation and you're doing more to cause harm. I'm unfollowing you. You are uneducated, blah, 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 freaking blah. And of course, I'm used to criticism. Haters bring it. Like, I've been used to haters for years. But I thought it was unfair because I think what I do here on this show is I do remain quite objective. Even when I'm reading from points of view that might run counter, I'm still extremely objective. And so to be accused of not being objective and being a part of the tinfoil hat society with all the conspiracy theories was kind of uncalled for, in my opinion. I feel like I've been around in this space a whole lot longer than a lot of people, that I kind of deserve the benefit of the doubt. So if you have ever heard me say things here that you felt like I was way, way, way off course, fine. Write to me. Let me hear from you. But I got publicly just blasted over on one of my Facebook pages. Not this one here, but it was one of the groups that I run. And I'm gonna unfollow you. Oh, okay, bye, Felicia. I can move on with my life. Anyway, I should do a whole Jimmy Rants on that whole psychology of people saying that they're leaving, and on the way out they're having to let you know that they're leaving. Yeah, just leave. We get it. So, but to counter these idiots out there today, I thought, you know what? I agree with them that there's some crazy conspiracy theories out there. I think there's a lot of kind of nutty theories being bantered about. It doesn't mean that they don't have any veracity at all. The reason I bring up some of these things on here is not because I'm believing necessarily what those conspiracy theories are, but there are people who do believe them. And are we supposed to just shut out those voices who are saying these things and believing these things altogether? No, I don't think we do. I think we listen to what the concerns are, and it behooves the leaders who are in charge of trying to bring calm to the public, it behooves the leaders to address the concerns that are out there. So that's why I do a lot of these Jimmy Rants talking about some of these things. So don't misrepresent what I'm doing here. I am definitely not feeding into the conspiracy theories and I think a lot of them are wacky, and we're going to talk about some of them here today in this episode. And in fact, later on today, I am going to do a second Jimmy Rants at 5 p.m. I've got a very long, it's like 40 something pages, won't read it all obviously, but from my friend Denise Minger, who did how to critically think in times of uncertainty, furthering what I'm about to share with you regarding conspiracy theories. So I'll be doing that one later today. But right now I want to talk about the misinformation and this myriad of COVID-19 conspiracy theories out there. Guys, they abound right now. And as much as people want to lump me in that category of trying to spread misinformation and spread conspiracy theories, I hope this episode right here shows you I'm all about being objective and putting out there what people are saying on both sides of the issue. So if you were one of those that was concerned that maybe I was believing something that I shared here, just simply reading and sharing perspective, then hopefully today changes your mind. Okay, so let's get into this article. This is out of medium.com. It's from the author of the article, Jason Shepard, and it's called Misinformation Goes Viral. And of course, this is his opinion. It's just me reading his story. Self-isolation has led many to delve into crackpot theories that go from man-made viruses to the spread of infections via 5G cell phone towers. Now, those that are rational are already asking right questions and seeking legitimate sources of information, but more and more people seem to be losing it. Feel free to use the information in this story to educate yourself and your friends. This pandemic is stressful enough without confabulating nonsense. I found that people listen more often if you have credentials, so while I'm not a fan of throwing my letters at people, here I am, a PhD in cellular and molecular medicine from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. I did my postdoctoral work at MIT, and I'm now an associate professor of neurobiology at the University of Utah. So again, Dr. Jason Shepard is the guy in this story. So I run a research lab that works on the molecular mechanisms of memory and brain plasticity. You can look him up, shepardlab.org. More recently, we made an interesting and surprising discovery about memory and viruses, which he shared a link to. Again, all of this is at medium.com. All right, so he provided various information about the theories and misinformation that's been put out there about COVID-19. I thought it was really interesting. Definitely wanted to share this with you here today. The guy is not chump change. He definitely knows his stuff. He's been trained to problem solve, analyze data, and he knows a lot about biology. So we need people like this, voices like this, to kind of offer some calm in the midst of the chaos that's out there. So let's address the first one. And again, if you're just joining us, this is a guy named Dr. Jason Shepard addressing a lot of the conspiracy theories and the misinformation out there. I thought this was important information to put out there. A little bit later on today, I'll be doing another Jimmy Rants all about this topic with the thoughts of Denise Minger and her 40-something page. If you ever read Denise Minger, she doesn't write short articles. She writes 1 million words, and in that 1 million words is just chock full of wonderful stuff. So we'll get to that later. But let's get to this one. No, you did not have COVID-19 before January 2020. So one of the thoughts that's put out there is that, well, maybe COVID-19 has been around for several months. And some people are believing that right now. But he's saying the first documented case in China was in late November, early December 2019. Scientists can track the origins of viruses by sequencing the genetic material. Over time, viruses accumulate mutations that make them identifiable. Think of a family tree and then tracing the genetic mutations. This is a very similar pathway. And so he's got various articles about how to look for that pathway. Again, this is on medium.com if you want to click all the links that he's looking at. So if you're interested in the analysis mentioned in the New York Times article that he lists, there's a website that helps trace the sequence data called nextstrain.org. And so you can go there, and again, he's got a clickable link on this medium.com story. So a lot of people think maybe we've had this for a little while, maybe we've had it and gotten over it. There is that notion out there, and he's saying that we have no evidence that shows that it came before it first was in China, in Wuhan, China, in late November, early December. All right, number two, a lot of people think the coronavirus, the COVID-19, was man-made and in a lab. That one's being put out there as a very popular one of the Tinfoil Hat Society. And so it's a conspiracy theory that people are believing right now. And again, let me give the caveat. This is not new that people believe stuff that they read about. This is not brand new information that people will read something flippantly online, not do any research on it. Again, Denise Minger does a really good job in her blog post that I'm going to read from later on the next Jimmy Rants, that kind of explains, hey, look, these are like the questions you need to do when you start to see things. Don't just buy it at face value. You've got to do your research. So a lot of people are hearing, oh, they made this in a lab in China as biological weapon to go after America. And so this article says scientists can compare the sequence of the new virus with other known viruses and determine how similar it is. The most similar virus to COVID-19 is a coronavirus found in bats, and the differences are due to mutations that occur because of natural evolution rather than an artificial sequence that was then suddenly added. In other words, there's about 8 or 9 different mutations of the COVID-19 coronavirus out there, which again is another kind of tricky thing when they're trying to create a vaccine for this, and there's all kinds of different mutations of it. But those mutations can't happen in a lab. They have to happen naturally. There are literally billions of viruses, all with different hosts and life cycles. Some mutations allow those viruses to jump into a new host. The clearest picture so far is that COVID-19 originated from bats and maybe an intermediate host after that. The most likely scenario is that this jump from an intermediate host happened in the wild animal market in Wuhan, which Dr. Will Cole and I talked about this, that it got into one of these animals, which then that animal became food, an exotic food in a restaurant that a human ate, and that's how it started. So in addition, the interaction between the virus spike protein that made the crown of protein stick out from the balloon-like membrane and the human receptor ACE2, which allows the virus to get into human cells, is something that would be extremely hard to engineer in a lab, okay? There are insinuations that a lab in China working on bat coronaviruses may have let this virus escape. There's a lot of finger pointing by various US agencies, but there's really no scientific analysis that makes this claim credible so far. Doesn't mean it's not credible, doesn't mean it didn't happen, but based on what we know right now, there's no evidence of it. There's also precedent for coronaviruses jumping hosts and into humans, like SARS and MERS, for example. Indeed, scientists had publicly warned that this would be one of the most probable causes for an international virus pandemic like we're experiencing right now. So there's various stories he has here about the evidence for this. A virologist explains why it is unlikely COVID-19 escaped from a lab. Nearly 5 months into the first coronavirus pandemic, the debate rages over the source of SARS-CoV-2, the virus, and that was in Forbes.com. So again, great information. Go look it up, medium.com. Again, the author is Jason Shepard. The title of the article, Misinformation Goes Viral. That's what I'm reading from today. So if you joined us late, we're looking at the various misinformation and conspiracy theories being put out there about COVID-19. I was accused of promoting these things, so I thought, okay, I'm very objective here, and I have been from the start. And yet this perception is that I've been not objective. So I'm giving you the other side of the story here. All of these claims about COVID-19, we're addressing them one by one. So another one that's out there is that we're being misled by statistical analyses and poor models for projections of people getting COVID-19 and the deaths by COVID-19. And that it's deliberately misleading people. That is the charge. This is a brand new virus. according to Dr. Jason Shepard, he's responding to this. Nothing was known about it before December 2019. The good news is it's similar to the previously known coronaviruses, SARS and MERS, but ineffectivity and mortality were completely unknown at that time. Scientists use models to refine their ideas, but no one model is correct. You're seeing a discrepancy in the models and projections because science isn't magic and it can't predict the future. The more we know about the virus and how it works and infects people, the better the model will be. Conversely, epidemiologists can study past and current data to infer what will happen in the future. All models point to social distancing as a means to stop the spread, and indeed it's working. And that's true. We have seen a flattening of the curve ever since people started doing this social distancing. So no, there is no conspiracy by scientists to control the numbers. And while governments might be producing their own propaganda on how they're dealing with the pandemic, there are legitimate sources of data that are being impartial to politics. So you may want to write this down. So the impartial websites, according to this article, coronavirus.jhu.edu. So it's giving a lot of information and data that is not politically driven. So coronavirus.jhu.edu. And then there's another one, ft.com/coronavirus-latest. ft.com/coronavirus-latest. All right. Another conspiracy theory is, well, COVID-19 it's just the flu. So why are we making a big deal about this? So a lot of people are just, well, we don't need to really pay much attention. It's just another flu. There's a coronavirus, the seasonal flu, that's a coronavirus. COVID-19, coronavirus. So what's the big deal? It's the same. It's the flu. That's what's being put out there. By now, I hope more are convinced that this is not true, but here's a representation of the worst case scenario happening in New York City right now, and it's scary. So look up the article. As more death data becomes available, COVID-19 looks less and less like the flu. And then coronavirus flu versus COVID-19, which one is worse? It is quite true that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are looking at this. Reason.com is the website for that article. The CDC flu, pneumonia, and total death numbers are downloaded from the FluView website. So you can look this up on the Centers for Disease Control. And on this graph here, you can see this is the seasonal flu, and then this is the COVID-19 right there. And then there's that graph, so you can see the flu and then COVID-19. Number 5 conspiracy theory, and this is a very popular one. I've seen a lot of my friends in the keto and carnivore space call out this man, but Bill Gates is a big part of this. A lot of people say Bill Gates released the coronavirus on it so that then he could hype up the fear about the coronavirus, so that then he could promote his vaccine for curing the coronavirus, all for his own personal financial gain. Now, I did do a Jimmy Rants on here about what happened in October of 2019 when they did a simulation of a global coronavirus pandemic. And what that would look like, and the number of people that would die, and projections, and blah, blah, blah. And I read in that Jimmy Rants, I read their conclusions about how we're not prepared for this kind of thing, and these are the things we need to look at. And so, but people have just sinister views about Bill Gates. Now, I'm not giving any opinion about it. I think we're going to let the facts speak for themselves regarding this. But for now, people are looking at him and, oh, he's just the evil of all evil ones right now. And so in this article, when he announced he was going to help develop a COVID-19 vaccine, people went completely nuts. Gates wants to kill people with this vaccine. He patented a new virus. He knew about the virus before the Chinese did. And so this Jason Shepard guy says, WTF, people. The richest man on earth gave up running a company to devote his time to a foundation dedicated to public health, the gatesfoundation.org, gatesfoundation.org. Go check out their website. Gates won't profit off of a new vaccine. No, he doesn't want to kill off people with it. And no, he isn't orchestrating some kind of grand plan to take over the world, but like a James Bond villain. So there's a lot of stuff out there about Bill Gates, much of which Snopes.com has kind of shot down. So yeah, Bill Gates has been the target of a lot of people's angst over this COVID-19 and a lot of the information being put out there. And I guess it's to be seen what his role is in all of this when all this shakes out. Number 6, the claim is that the virus is being spread by 5G cell phone towers. So one of the conspiracy theories that's been put out there is, well, while we're all holed up in our houses, they're out there working hard on putting up these 5G cell towers, which we know will be extremely harmful, blah, 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 and they're going to actually help spread the coronavirus. So Jason says, OMFG, first, 5G is just as safe as 4G. 4G is just as safe as your home microwave. Second, a virus cannot be spread by a cell phone tower because viruses only infect living things. So please don't go and destroy our cell phone towers. And he said, since I'm now getting a lot of questions about 5G, I thought I would say something. Cell phones use radio wave frequencies to transmit. If you remember your high school physics class, electromagnetic waves include visible light, radio, and X-rays. Radio waves carry less energy and are long forms. X-rays much more energy and shorter forms. The latter one is called ionizing radiation and dangerous, as we all know. The milli and microwaves are safe except for the generation of heat, which is how we microwave our food. And so 5G has little more energy than 4G, but has orders of magnitude less energy and harm than visible light. You should be way more worried about the ultraviolet rays from the sun. And so he gives some articles there about the health effects of 5G. Now, I know even before COVID-19 came out, there were people saying, oh, 5G is going to destroy us and our health and blah, blah, blah. And so that was already out there. And see, this is a part of this conspiracy theory and why so many of these are grabbing hold. These are not just popping up suddenly. People have been believing a lot of these things long before COVID-19 came around. All COVID-19 does is it solidifies beliefs that you already had. So whatever you believed before COVID-19 hit, now suddenly COVID-19, oh, well, it fits within my worldview. And it's not in this article, but another kind of conspiracy theory is, and it's built on those things that were beliefs before all this went down. There were a lot of people that didn't like certain politicians, for example. And so when this hit and the certain politicians start to act, no matter what they do, your negative view of those politicians makes you think that they're all the more what you believed about them to begin with. Are you noticing that too? That a lot of people are coming down hard on various politicians, not naming any names. There's a bunch of them out there, but you're coming down harder on them because you already didn't like them to begin with. And vice versa. Perhaps you are a fan of some politician, and then that politician is being given the benefit of the doubt because you were already a fan of them. So don't think that's not playing into this a little bit as well. That makes sense? The next one. Healthcare workers and almost all the scientists I know are working to save lives. There are accusations that scientists manufactured the virus and that we're covering up just for the big pharmaceutical companies to profit. We are not paid off by government or big pharma. We really just want to help people. Health workers are literally putting their lives on the line under challenging conditions. I hear from them, you guys. I've got a lot of friends in the medical community, some of them directly on the front lines of providing telemedicine or being in a patient setting where there are COVID-19 patients. So I'm hearing from these doctors and they're telling me kind of horror stories about how they're desperately trying to keep their patients alive, and that their ability to be able to have testing, proper testing that would help them behind the scenes, they're not getting it. One such medical doctor who is helping on the front lines tried to order 500,000 antibody tests, coronavirus antibody tests, and he got them and all of them were duds. So that's the problem right now. We have to stop blaming the people that are really seriously trying to help with this. or the administrations that are involved in this. People are pointing a lot of fingers. And I think right now we don't need to be pointing fingers. We need to be trying to work together to find solutions. And the sooner we get solutions is the sooner we can get back to our normal lives, at least whatever that new normal will be once we're done with this. But right now, all these conspiracy theories are out there. Scientists are racing to find treatments to provide a vaccine. Science works by a process, and that does take some time. You will see announcements that X drug works, but often this needs repeating and validation. This isn't because scientists don't know what they're doing. For good science to take place, you have to repeat, and see the same results. And the general public doesn't understand that. Oh, well, if something, quote, works, meaning they've seen it work one time, oh, it must be used on a widespread scale. And that's not how these things work. It's one reason we're probably a little while away before there is a vaccine for this. But even then, you're going to have people who will just refuse to take the vaccine for various reasons. And again, that's another conspiracy theory that's out there is, well, they're only doing this to try to force vaccines on all of us. I'm not sure. Yeah, he didn't address that one in this article, but that's another one that's being put out there. Well, they're only kind of scaring us because they want us all to be vaccinated. And there's a lot of people that are anti-vaccine. And so those things are out there as well as a conspiracy theory. And I really hope he does do an update to this, Jason, so that we can see what he says about that one. I understand people are afraid and desperate for good news, but we all need to wait for confirmation from the medical community before we rush to any conclusions. And I've gotten a little bit of that criticism, people saying me just talking about anything. You need to leave this to the scientists, you need to leave this to the medical experts, and I certainly think they play a huge role in giving us the answers that we need. But in the meantime, let's not discount that people have these concerns about these things that I'm sharing about here today, because if people are talking about it but nobody is addressing those concerns, it looks like they have something to hide. And I don't think they necessarily have something to hide. I think there's just such overwhelmingness of all this information coming in all at the same time that the people that could answer it is just too much all at once. So I think we need to probably give some grace to these people, and in due course let them answer our questions. But in the meantime, not vilify it, and definitely not spread these conspiracy theories and misinformation flippantly as if they're the gospel truth that's been vetted out by science. All right, the last one that Jason has here is about herd immunity. So there is this idea of let's just release everybody back out of their houses again. We all get out there, and then through all of us being around each other and exposed to the COVID-19, we'll get an immunity because we'll all have the antibodies. And I think I heard the other day, when 40% of us have antibodies at a strong enough level, then it would die off. And so that's the theory that, well, we just need to release everybody out of their homes because it will kick in herd immunity. So Jason writes, I'm loving that anti-vaxxers are now claiming that herd immunity is better than a vaccine. Did you know vaccines actually work by accelerating herd immunity? It is when enough people have recovered from the virus to be immune and cannot reinfect other people. Now there's a lot of uncertainty how well or how long people recovering from COVID-19 will be immune, but ultimately the only way to control the pandemic is through herd immunity, but natural herd immunity will need at least 70% of the total population in order to be immune. So Jason is saying, once we have a vaccine, yes, you can have a lower level of people that are immune to this, but because we don't have that yet, you would need 70% of the population to basically have enough antibodies that show they're immune to this for it to kick in with herd immunity. If this is done by just letting the virus spread unchecked, we're talking about millions of people potentially dying worldwide over the next few years. Vaccines accelerate herd immunity without killing people. It induces antibody production that will kill the virus, the same kind of antibody response people achieve when they recover from an injection. So he concludes, we are all in this together. The internet is a double-edged sword. Endless information but oftentimes it's hard to determine what information to pay attention to. My advice to you guys is keep calm and listen to the experts. So for all those people who think I'm spreading conspiracy theories with what I'm doing here on Jimmy Rants, I just addressed some of the most common conspiracy theories, and I hope you realize my goal here is not to spread misinformation, nor is it to try to give a voice to things that are wackadoodle. I do think we need to address some of the things that are being put out there, because when you don't address them, it does look like you're hiding something. And that's the biggest thing here. I think with the misinformation, most of it is based on people's concerns that we're not getting the full story here. So if you're not getting the full story and people have these questions and they stay lingering in their minds, and people's minds begin to wander, and plus we have all this extra time on our hands being here in our houses to think about these things, what do you expect people to do? I mean, we are very curious people who want to know answers. Now, I get it. You've got a few wackadoodle people out there that are going to promote things and not with the best of intentions of truly wanting to know. They have an agenda. We do have a lot of people, again, that had agendas before all this went down. So let's not discount that some of what's going on here is continuing to promote an agenda. And like I said, in the political realm, we're seeing this already. Oh, see, ex-politician is doing this, and this proves what we've been telling you all along about this, the character of this person, and blah, blah. And I'm going, really? Like, that's not what we need at this time. We need people that are asking smart questions and that we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on here. So I hope this Jimmy Rants here today gave you some information maybe you had not heard before. And there are a whole lot of conspiracy theories, more than the ones that we mentioned here. And I'm going to remind you a little bit later on, I'm going to address the Denise Minger blog post, because she goes over all of this like stuff that's out there when it comes to the conspiracy theories, and then gives some very important questions about how you vet out what good information is, or what the information is that you're reading, to see if it's valid or not. So, all right, I want to see what you guys have to say. We're going to go to Instagram Live here first, and when we have time, we'll come over to you guys here on Facebook. So thanks for being here. So welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com is the website if you want to engage in the past episodes of this show. So thanks for being here today. Well, I'm having to scroll down far today. You guys were dumbfounded by what I was sharing here today. Who's paying this guy for his opinion, says Petiro Joe 7, because that's all they are. Well, Jason Shepard is his name, and it's called Misinformation Goes Viral. And he's not chump change. He is a professor of neurobiology at the University of Utah. He did do postdoctoral work at MIT, and he does have a PhD in cellular and molecular medicine from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. So, I mean, I'm not sure who paid him or why you believe that he got paid. I certainly think it's smart to quell down people's minds running wild about this right now, because there is a lot of stuff being put out there. And again, looking at this through the prism of people came into COVID-19 coming on the scene with their own worldview and biases here, I think it behooves us to keep that in mind when we read things. What was this person's point of view prior to COVID-19? I almost want to kind of, if somebody posts something on Instagram, for example, go back through their older posts before all this went down. What was their state of mind? How were they presenting information then? What were their points of view then? And then how does it line up to now? And if it looks like they're simply trying to use this as an agenda driven to promote their own agenda, I have no interest in that. What I have interest in is people asking real questions based on right now, which is what I've tried to do here with these Jimmy Rants, is use this as a springboard for inviting more conversation. Lily Grand says, I don't think 5G is necessarily spreading coronavirus, but it doesn't mean it isn't harmful. Yeah, that's a totally separate story. The story, the conspiracy theory is that 5G itself is spreading the COVID-19. I agree with you. I think there are potential problems with 5G, but again, that's a separate discussion from this conspiracy theory that's being put out there. They're only including COVID-19 because that's what everybody's talking about. So if you get a connection of 5G to COVID-19, you get people's attention, and these people who are, promoting it for the purposes of something they believe in, that 5G is bad, that's horrible. Like, don't use this pandemic as a means for spreading your own agenda about something else. Yes, please tell people about the dangerous health effects of 5G, but it has nothing to do with COVID-19. The story that only ionizing radiation can hurt us is industry propaganda. So yeah, again, keep in mind that Jason Shepard also has his own biases. So I'm not saying he's the be-all, end-all in this conversation, but he's certainly giving you the other side of the story. I'm an ICU nurse in a very busy, dedicated corona unit. The nurses and doctors are absolutely saving people's lives. This has nothing to do with the greed of big pharmaceutical. Thank you for that, Patiro Joe. I appreciate that, and God bless you being on the front lines. Really, my hearts and prayers are with all of the people that are having to be in contact with these COVID-19 patients, and a lot of them that have died. That's got to be devastating on you mentally, and knowing that you're doing everything you can do to try to save their lives. So thank you for all the work you're doing. And I'm sorry you have to put up with a lot of this stuff that's being put out there, and motives and conspiracy theories. And meanwhile, you're in the real world situation of seeing people up close and personal dealing with this thing. So thank you again for all your work. Looks like this guy wants the same thing Bill Gates wants: mandatory vaccination. Shameful. I'm going to reserve my judgment for that because I don't necessarily think Jason Shepard has the illest of intentions here. But I can appreciate your opinion. So now this is another thing about this. People are like, well, you don't have a right to talk about these alternative theories and da-da-da. And I'm going, last time I checked, I live in the United States of America. And we do have freedom of speech, and the freedom to express opinions, and the freedom of debate. Let's stop pretending. We haven't lost those liberties yet. Now, we might give them up someday, but as of right here, right now, in April of 2020, we still have all those rights that are protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. So let's stop pretending like people don't have a right to share opinion. What we do need, though, is educated opinion. What we do need, though, is people in the know answering the questions and having the conversation with those who do have questions. This is the thing that is really disturbing to me, is people are coming down hard on those who have questions. Asking questions is not a bad thing. In fact, I would say asking questions and then having answers to said questions is a very intellectually healthy thing for us to be doing. So to try to silence voices simply because they run counter to what the mainstream thinking is, don't do that. That, to me, you guys, is about as un-American as anything we can do. And that disturbs me very much, that we're silencing voices simply because they say something that runs counter to what the mainstream is saying. And I will tell you this, I've heard from a doctor friend who has been trying to sound the alarm on some things that are going on behind the scenes, and he has had his videos deleted from social media. So let's not pretend like that dissenting voices aren't making an impact. They are. And we need dissenting voices, not to just rabble-rouse and spread conspiracy theories, but to show that there's more to the discussion than what we're being told. And asking questions just simply clarifies a lot of those points. And I hope that helps, that we're all kind of on this page, same page together, trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get out good information, because asking questions will clarify a lot of things. Kat says, one thing is for sure right now, every little thing needs to be questioned. Every little thing. I agree with you. And I think asking questions in and of itself is not the problem. And yet you're being made to look like, if you're saying anything off the beaten path here, that you're a crazy person. In fact, on that Facebook page where all you know what broke loose, last night and today, they were making comments like, well, you're just an uneducated person. I don't know what this has to do with keto or health. I'm going to unfollow you and block you. And I'm just going, okay, all over asking questions. People that have followed my work for a while know that I always ask questions, and I will always be on the forefront of people asking questions and people having a conversation and people trying to do it civilly. It's so ironic that on my Thursday podcast last week, Real Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will, we talked about having haters and dealing with some of the negativity that happens online. And we were dealing exactly with this very thing, that when people disagree with you, they suddenly become have hatred towards you and vitriol, and they start spewing out at you personally when all you're doing is just trying to have the conversation with people. So it's just, I guess it's a national pastime to just hate on other people. I appreciate what you're doing, but we are definitely losing our rights. First of all, we are barricaded in our homes. IG and Facebook are censoring posts if they don't like the questions. You're preaching to the choir here. I have noticed, and I haven't really said anything publicly about it on my pages, but I have noticed that my traffic is way down on my posts on Instagram here, for example. That usually I got a certain number of views on all my posts, and those views are down and likes are down. So I don't doubt that that's happening. So don't think I'm not hearing you here. But I do think we need to continue asking the questions. My Facebook page, my Living La Vida Low Carb Facebook page, I was sharing on Facebook before we came on, it's still blocked. I still can't get on to my page. It still says we can't publish on your page. And I've tried to verify my location and multiple times, and it just keeps coming up with this, you can't publish on your page right now, all over my Living La Vida Low Carb Facebook page. And I've got 50,000 followers over there that I usually go live on Jimmy Rants with, and they're not seeing anything. They won't let me post anything, can't go live. And I've tried to confirm Spartanburg, South Carolina multiple times, turned on location services. It's obvious I'm right in the center of Spartanburg, South Carolina, so I don't know why it wouldn't let me verify my location. So that's happened again and again and again and again. I've probably tried it 100 times. So is that trying to silence a voice? Maybe. I don't know. All right, let's pop over here to Facebook before they silence me over here. Just kidding. Welcome in, you guys. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. What I don't like is the censorship on Facebook. Yeah, Paula, that's what we were just talking about. It does seem like that if there are dissenting voices simply asking questions. Now, I think there is a proper way to offer questions without sounding conspiratorial. And I can appreciate the efforts to try to quell the misinformation out there, but who gets to determine what is misinformation from what is just simply challenging the establishment? Because I do think in America, at least as of right now, we still have the right to dissent. We have the right to free speech and to ask questions. And until they take that right away, I'm going to keep asking questions, and you should too if you have them. Norma says, rumors here are a chip is to put in the vaccine for tracking, etc. Yeah, I saw that one as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, again, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. So yeah, the theory is that they're going to have this new vaccine, and in the vaccine, they're going to put this microchip that would then track your every move. And then the Christians will say that's the mark of the beast, and then the end times come and Jesus comes back. So, I mean, you're going to have all that kind of stuff kind of linger out there. Sherry says, thanks for offering rational thoughts. I have tried to remain objective with everything I share here on Jimmy Rants. I mean, I know some of it comes across as conspiratorial, and again, I'm sharing voices outside of what you're hearing so that you can hear what else is being said, but said in a rational way. I have totally remained objective through all of this, despite the criticisms I've gotten. Paula says, decent long voice, the low carb movement, look what happened there. Until there were many voices, they couldn't silence it at all. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that is what's going on here, which makes it really, really fascinating to me. All right, let's see if there's any other comments on Instagram. Shirley says, I think our group naturally questions everything. Yes, if you're in the keto community, you naturally question everything, and especially from government who have let us down with a lot of things. So you're right. We do in the keto alternative health movement space, Shirley, we do question things as we should, because we've been lied to about our diet and about things about health regarding like, oh, high cholesterol leads to heart disease. Well, we know that's bunk. So having those questions now about what they're saying about COVID-19, it's very natural to have those questions. After realizing we've been lied to about nutrition, I'm not really surprised to see the tinfoil hats come out for this. And again, I think we're all teetering on that line between reality and conspiracy theory and what's true and what's not true. And I don't think it's unhealthy to ask the questions. This is the thing I want to leave with you guys. Keep asking questions, because simply asking questions is not being contrarian, is not being conspiracy theorist. It just means, hey, something doesn't sound right here. And we still have the right to question when things don't seem right. You know, the moment we have that taken away from us, it's going to be far more detrimental to society than the COVID-19 will ever be. And this is what I want people to remember is let's not trade away all the good parts of what makes us who we are. Let's not trade those things away all for the sake of, well, we need to keep our eye on the ball of COVID-19 and trying to listen to the experts. If things don't seem right, please question. I think that's a very healthy attitude to have. The moment we stop asking the questions is the moment we should just all hand over all of our rights and just be done with everything. And honestly, if you ask me, America's dead at that point. That's just my opinion. As that conspiracy theorist, that's another one out there. Oh, well, this is just designed to take away all of our rights so that we become a communist nation and blah, blah, blah. Asking the questions is all we're doing here. And you should be able to ask those questions. All right, guys. So I am going to be back a little bit later on with another one addressing the conspiracy theorists that are out there. Denise Minger, you might remember her from back in the paleo world. She wrote this big, long debunking of the China study that was out there. And so she did that really great series of posts about the China study. Well, she's back. 40-something pages worth of a blog post. I'm not going to read all of it later. I couldn't possibly get it done in an hour. But she talks about critically thinking in times of uncertainty and how all these uncertain things makes people go to these conspiracy theories. And so she addresses some of those theories as well. So we'll hit that later, but we'll also hit her key questions at the end of it. So valuable whenever you see information online or even something you hear from me, for example, there's specific questions that you can ask to see the veracity of the information that's being shared. So look forward to sharing that with you at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But for now, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you got to go follow me over on Instagram because that's where the fun begins. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 5 p.m. sometimes on Monday through Friday. Weekends I take off, but we do try to provide a great show for you here during the week. So go follow me, Instagram, at LivinLowCarbMan, LivinLowCarbman. Once you are there, engage live in the content. But if you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. Then you need to head over to JimmyRants.com. You can see all the past episodes there, as well as YouTube. Type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. So guys, I'll be back a little bit later on, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll see you then.